Hey everybody, welcome to Hammer Down on the Market Scale Network. I'm your host, Mike Bush. I'm so delighted by today's guest, I really am, because we've had so many folks come on the show and talk about the problems they're solving, and it's been that technology solution for this and a mobile app for that. This guy looked around and said, we need hats. Reed Loustalot, welcome to the show, brother.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Mike. Yeah, big problem we're solving. Lots of uncovered heads out there, so yeah.
So I know I'm being a little flippant with it, but the Please Advise hat and now t-shirts have really kind of taken off, made you pretty famous. I saw you on stage, asked Brad Jacobs for some venture capital. What was going on here, man? Tell me about this business of yours.
Well, the hats started because back in like February of 2023, me and my one of my business partners, Jake, started built like an excuse generator for drivers for being late for appointments, and we called it Please Advise AI. And then I just liked the phrase, right? I was a broker past, right? So I brokered freight for a while, and I used it a lot. It's pretty common vernacular in the brokerage freight world, just in the business world in general. But I think it's got a special meaning in our industry. But basically, yeah, did the website, then wrote it on a piece of paper and put it on a hat and taped it on, and just like wore it for some reason. I don't even remember why I had that idea, but I did it, and I wore it to a couple conferences, and then I basically was like, hey, I'm just going to make a hat, and called up an embroidery shop and said, hey, can you put Please Advise on a Richardson trucker hat, and made a Shopify store, and yeah, I've been selling them ever since. So
and then you followed that up with freightgong.com, right?
Yeah. Well, that was in November, or maybe it would have been October when we created it. But that was, so I've got this Discord. Discord's like a big group chat, essentially, like a server. And I've got a bunch of freight people in there. And on Tuesdays, we do like a tech event at night. Just a bunch of people hop into like a voice channel, and everyone just kind of talks, where sometimes we do demos. And there was no demo slated for this like random night in October. And I had like an hour before the event had this idea of like, because all these brokers like post about gongs all the time. And so I was like, well, I don't got a gong, but like, I'm sure I could make one. So I just put it on, found a picture of a gong online that was like royalty free, and just threw it on a website. And I know enough code to be dangerous. So I just wrote a little function that rang an MP3 whenever somebody clicked it. And and then I put it online, and I demoed it during the event, and then right then and there I asked if anyone wanted to sponsor it, almost half kidding. But a bunch of people raised their hands, and next thing I know, I'm selling sponsor slots on the gong and trying to make it blow up. And then I'm, next thing I know, I'm demoing it on the FreightWave stage. So, yeah.
So first off, let me just say I've laughed a lot at a bunch of the stuff you've done. But I think you're kind of brilliant. And I think you looked around at the industry.
Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome, man. Mike Bush called me brilliant can now be in your LinkedIn bio. I'm excited about that.
I'm down for that.
I actually think I think it was by design, because you're a really smart guy. I think you looked around and said, man, freight industry has gotten its butt kicked for the past couple of years. Rates are in the toilet. Brokers and carriers are screaming at each other. What if we just all laugh a little bit? What if we take a deep breath, laugh at ourselves, have some fun, realize that at the end of the day, we're all kind of pulling in the same direction. Yeah, we're competing, but there's a lot of frenemies out here. Am I right? Was that kind of the idea here, is to kind of be the voice of levity?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was it wasn't very explicit. Like, I didn't set out with like this idea that I need to go do all these things. Like, I think I tend to be a sarcastic and cynical person at times. And so from the very first days in freight, like in my brokerage role in 2016, I mean, anybody who walks into the industry in like that sort of role quickly is encountered with the fact that it's like a cluster, right? I could add another word onto it, but it's like the whole industry is basically this giant mess. And everyone's trying to, do their best to figure it all out. But every single day, crazy stuff happens that you can't control. And you're oftentimes being, the bearer of bad news, especially as a broker. You're literally just a communicator of what's going on to a customer or to a carrier. And you're blamed for stuff you can't control. So it's a huge, like, and that's very stressful. That's a weight that a lot of people have to figure out how to deal with, and it crushes a lot of people when they leave. That's why there's just so much turnover in the industry in a lot of roles, right? So from the very beginning, I knew it was just kind of a super stressful place, and I coped with it with humor. We used to make memes in the office in like 2016, right? And we had like a meme file of stuff that happened to us in our day to day. And so I like, there's so many crazy things. Like, how could you not laugh about what's going on? But then that's the kind of the ground level situation. But then you look at the marketing that companies do, and you look at the materials that people put out there. It basically tries to make it look like what we're doing is rocket science. You got all these like crazy computer graphics and like, planes doing low passes over the ports and like
and I love
European
the AI iPad in front of them, like.
yeah. And everyone uses these stock photos, and you're just like, dude, like that's not what this is. Like, this is a bunch of guys and girls yelling at each other on the phone half the day. Like, that's what this is.
It's
and
funny,
so
right? Last week on the show, Dan Lindsay from Broker Carrier Summit was on, and he was saying, he made the point. He said, being a broker, you're in the middle of two customers, both of whom want to basically call and curse at you, right? Like, your shipper's like, where's my stuff? And your carrier's like, hey, F off. It's the weirdest thing in the world, man. It's such a crazy role.
It is a crazy role, and absurd things happen, and everyone's always, mad. But then at the same time, you have that, but then you also make these great relationships. You make a ton of friends. You get really, really close with people, even your customers, even your carriers, because you are going through these things a lot of times with those people, right? And more often than not, if you're doing a good job, they're with valuable partners who you trust. But that doesn't mean bad things don't happen. It just means you have to handle it together. And I don't know. Humor always just got me through it, and I was always just joking about stuff. And so it was very natural for me to start like making memes and like saying the things I say and doing the things I do, because like it's an absurd industry. Crazy things happen, and we like to pretend that that's not the case, and that's just the case. And that's why I think it resonates so much with people, because everyone knows that's true. Everyone knows that's true. But we all just like, well, not all, but a lot of people just like to pretend that it's not the case, that half the loads on any given day for a broker, like nobody knows where they are. Like nobody knows where the drivers are. It doesn't matter how many visibility tools there are. There's always going to be these situations, So It's just a funny industry, man.
I understand that. So more recently, beyond the Please Advise attire, beyond Freight Gong, you took over as CMO at CarCloud, yeah?
Yeah, I did. So, I mean, I started 2 years ago with my software tool called Lost Freight. That was a tool for carriers. And me and my partner, Jake, who I'd met on Twitter, he's not a freight guy, but he's a software engineer. We worked together. He built that whole thing. I helped him, obviously, guide the product. And then I've sold that to a bunch of carriers. So we've got carriers using that. And then, I started doing a bunch of other stuff too. I had the Discord. I was selling hats. In September of last year, I started, because there was a demand for it, because people had asked me a bunch of times, I started doing some kind of like ad hoc marketing work, like consulting type stuff for some companies, and including Truck Parking Club. In fact, Evan was the first. Evan tried to hire me last summer after I met him at the Future Supply Chain. I basically told him to like kick rocks. And then like we just became friends after that, and he kept asking me if I would help them with their socials, and finally I said yes, A, because I needed to make some money, and B, like I clearly had a knack for it at that point. It was obvious to me, and I wanted to kind of lean into that. And so I spent about 6 months helping them in that sort of capacity. And then it got to the point where like I'd met the team, I knew the whole team, like I had a peek behind the curtain, I saw how things were going. And like out here at TIA, whatever, a month ago, Evan and I were just kind of talking. We're just like, well, like, why would we not do this? And I've thought, like, I've had people kind of try to ask me if I wanted a job in the past or ask me to do things. And I'm just like, I've never been interested. I've never considered working for somebody else really, because I don't want to to be honest, I didn't really have an interest in going and working on, the 100th TMS or anything like that. I really wanted something that was like very like a tried and true model, like, because Truck Parking Club's a marketplace, right? And marketplace models it's also just an interesting business model to me. It's a marketplace, which is a tried and true model in other domains. And it's a very clear solution in my mind to a gigantic and acute problem that everyone agrees upon as being a problem, right? So big problem, great team. Great team. I can't even it's hard for me to overstate how good I think the team is. But yeah, those are the factors. Great team, great problem, great product, tried and true solution. Like, let's just go. So
for folks who don't know Truck Parking Club, what is what is the problem? What is the solution? Give me the elevator pitch, sir.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, there's a truck parking shortage. There's all sorts of stats thrown around. Some people say one parking spot for every 10 trucks. Some say 11. I don't know. Go choose one of those. But it's a problem, and people agree upon it being a problem. People who often disagree about the problems the industry face all tend to agree on this. So big problem. Drivers need safe places to park, and it's more than just parking for at the end of the day, at the end of a shift. It's I need to drop my trailer for a little bit. Like I need a place to park near my house, whatever. And so historically, the solution to this sort of issue has been, it's obvious. We just need to get some government funding or raise some money and go build more supply, right? Go build more parking.
Just and
of course,
right?
Yeah, lay some concrete. And of course, that can be part of the solution, but that takes time. It takes lots of money, and getting involved with the government, sometimes will take even more time and more money. So Truck Parking Club's a marketplace, meaning there's demand for parking. Drivers need parking. They're one side of the app. It's a two-sided marketplace. The other side is supply. And our supply, the parking spaces, are all properties that are existing properties that are existing landowners suitable for truck parking. So think like Airbnb, but literally Airbnb, but for truck parking. So instead of renting my room out or my guest house or my house to a family for an agreed upon rate that I set, we're just opening up truck parking spaces. So, and that's everything from like trucking companies, towing companies, repair shops, current like parking operators, right? So Joe Schmo on the side of the interstate who owns a couple acres, who's got a sign that says truck parking, you know what I mean? Like everywhere and in between all of those people, there's so much kind of latent capacity for parking that's not on that nobody knows about. It's not visible. There's no easy way to market it. There's no one place a driver can go to find all these disparate people, right? And so instead of building, we're just like, hey, there's all this current space that's not being used because there's no real way to do it. And now we're providing a way for that to kind of, for them to get into the business of parking trucks relatively quickly. So yeah, it's a mobile app. It's a website. Drivers use it to book parking. Perfect. Daily, weekly, hourly parking. Monthly too.
Perfect. Hey, so a couple of weeks ago, some of the trucking community on Twitter, and I remember Trucker Desiree being one of the folks, didn't have a whole lot of terrific things to say about you guys, mainly from the standpoint of, hey, some of these spots used to be free. They're not anymore. Are you hurting the trucking community? What would you say on those?
I would start by saying that truck stops represent like the vast minority of our properties. I think it's about 7% at this point. And that's an interesting, there is credibility to what she's saying if you very narrowly focus on that. And are there situations where a place that's a truck stop that's on our platform has in the past offered free parking, but they've had to switch for whatever reason. And obviously they're welcome to do that without us or with other solutions or anybody, right? Figure out how to do it on their own. And many of them are doing that independently of us, right? Are there situations where a driver's rolling up to a spot and it used to be free and it's not anymore? 100%.
Sure.
100%. And we think that all things being equal, Truck Parking Club should be the one to facilitate that booking because we've got the driver's best interest at heart from a customer service standpoint. We provide unbelievable customer service. And this isn't me just saying this as like a new member of the company. Like, pick up the phone and call our customer service line and see what happens, right? That's the proof. The proof's in the pudding. So a lot of truck stops, are, especially the mom and pops, are struggling, right? They're closing. Exactly. And that's like a net negative for free parking. Obviously, less capacity is not good for anyone either. Right. And so truck stops are in this interesting place where they hurt too when the freight industry is going down, because everyone's got less money to spend. And their business, if they're providing free parking, their business is made on selling fuel or selling stuff inside the truck stop or yada yada. And like, if drivers aren't going inside and buying anything, like, what's going to happen? You know, if people aren't spending their money at the truck stop while taking advantage of free parking, then that's an issue. But we're not against free parking at all. Like, if anything, we would love to make it easier for truck stops to offer free parking. So we have a whole incentive system set up where a truck stop can be like, okay, great. If you want free parking, you can come in and spend $10 or buy 50 gallons of fuel or whatever, and we'll give you free parking. We'll give you a promo code on the spot to book for free on Truck Parking Club. And or at a reduced rate, right? And we actually don't make any money on those transactions as a business. So it's, Desiree had a lot to say, and she took very big swings at Evan personally and at the company personally. And I think we responded very, very kindly. There's no ill will on our side in how we messaged back to her. I think we offered her an opportunity to come talk to us, like, in public, so we could have a conversation about this. And Evan especially, Evan is so unbelievably bought into the mission that, like, he's not afraid to talk to anybody about that kind of stuff. And so that invitation stands. She has not said yes to that. So I don't know. And she also, I don't know. I mean, she's whatever. She's doing her thing, and she's stirring the pot and getting attention, and it could be for good intentions, and we'll give her the benefit of the doubt. She obviously cares a lot about what she's doing.
No, look, I see it from your side. You know, I think to say, look, the mom and pop truck stop that goes out of the business means, one, there's less parking spots. Two, there's less showers and restrooms, which is a huge thing in the trucking community. Like, you know, there are laws up saying, hey, you have to let truckers use your bathroom, which is crazy to me. Like the level of contempt that truck drivers go through on the daily basis, which then puts them in a bad mood when they call and yell at their broker. So, you know, who just rang the freight gong anyway, you know what I mean? So Reed, one of my favorite questions to ask people on the show, brother, is, you know, what advice would you give to somebody, some kid or some maybe recent soon to be grad thinking about joining the logistics industry?
I mean, I think it's a great industry to join because it is massive and there's a lot of things to do, and it's there's a lot of opportunity, and it's so fragmented that fragmentation equals opportunity. So whether you want to just be like, you don't want to start something and you just want to go work in a company or whatever, like, there's so much opportunity everywhere for everyone to do stuff like that. So I think it's a great place to hone like a very serious ability to problem solve. Like, communication is so critical in this industry. So like being able to good communicator, getting good on the phone, being good with people, like those are all things you get to practice on a day-to-day basis in an industry that's not going anywhere, that's only going to expand as time goes on, and that touches everything. So I think there's lots of interesting problems to solve. That's only going to continue to be the case. There's a great industry to be in, and there's great people too. You get so many different types of people. You know what I mean? Like you're talking to people from every walk of life. Versus like if you go take a tech job, like you're not really talking to, you know, if you're talking to, you know, marketing directors selling marketing software, like there's only so many people who are, you know, in that chair. But like when you're talking to truck drivers, or you're talking to warehouse people, or you're talking to shippers, that runs the gamut. Like you literally can find just about any person from every walk of life, you know, right then and there. So I think it's just a great industry to be in.
People want to get in touch with you. What's the easiest way to do so? Actually, it's hard to get away from you. So this is a silly question. What's the best way to get in touch with you, man?
I mean, Twitter, LinkedIn. On Twitter, my handle is Lost is Reed. On LinkedIn, it's just my name. My email, if people want to email me, my email is reed@truckparkingclub.com. I don't care if you email me. I might not answer, but you can email me. But yeah, those two places are great.
All right. Reed Loustalot, CMO for Truck Parking Club. Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, Mike.